Uh-oh.
Oh, welcome back to another episode of Witty Banter. Your host Nabil is here with special co-host Ajit Punj, repeat host here.
Repeat
Clearly
host,
the people
repeat
like
guest.
him.
The only one who'll come on short notice.
Yeah, exactly. Reliable.
Thank you.
Old reliable. And then Anika from Pakistan.
So here's a question. Anika Auntie can join us via live stream in Pakistan. How come Daniel can't be here?
Yeah, from Iceland. That's a good point. Daniel said
Is
Daniel said the Wi-Fi was bad.
Oh, cop out. Okay.
I mean, they are on an island, I suppose. I don't know if the cables.
So is that Pakistan? A few points so nice.
Uh-oh.
You're gonna have to repeat that again. It was really choppy.
Okay, so I said a news item on Iceland. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Now I
we
can.
can hear you now.
No?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I heard recently that they have a shortage of men in Iceland,
Oh.
and if you go...
Uh-oh, sorry, Daniel.
They don't need a visa. That they don't need a visa. At least Pakistanis don't need a visa.
Pakistanis.
So I don't know how true that is.
Wow.
It probably is.
You have to get married.
And if you get married, you get some kind of tax break.
This is for anyone
marrying.
who's not Icelandic to go to Iceland? They just want any men?
That's what I heard.
Wow.
We have to authenticate this by the person in Iceland at the moment.
Daniel?
But I guess you could also go on Google and authenticate it ourselves.
Daniel, you're a hot ticket item in Iceland. Please confirm.
Well, maybe they can just tell everyone to just leave the island. Go elsewhere. They're saying they need more men
What?
here, but it sounds like you should just leave.
What?
No, you should go because that's apparently all of what Daniel has paid.
Well, why did the other men leave? Is my question.
Did they leave or they just...
Oh. Yeah, I wondered about that. This is a rare...
Maybe they just died.
I think
Yeah,
they are...
it's a low birth rate.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Apparently the U.S. had a, really low birth rate for the first time in a while, like a record low or something.
Oh, recently?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like the birth rate dropped to an all-time low or something like that. Which...
I
They-
heard the same thing with China, that in the next
Yeah.
20 years, they won't have the age group that they need to keep the economy as strong.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. What are your thoughts about having kids and being young?
Well, that's what's interesting. So the U.S. had a record low or something because people only have kids when the outlook is bright, and apparently right now it's very negative, which makes sense. So I think most people in my generation have a very negative outlook towards having kids because of housing costs.
Tell us more.
Tell us more. Yeah, I mean, I'd be pretty skeptical about having kids. I'm sure the age for having kids too has gone up because I feel like a lot of people in the older generations would have kids by the time they're even in their 21s, 22s.
Mm-hmm.
But now I feel like everyone I ask I could wait till I'm 35 to have kids. Maybe that's because medical
There's a lot to
reasons.
do. There's more to
Yeah.
do, I think.
People
Why
wanna
would I want to
travel.
have kids now when
Mhm.
I still haven't done a lot of stuff,
That's true. Yeah,
So
you have
what's
to
the
travel.
positive of kids?
I mean, I see a lot of positives to have kids. It's
When you get older,
example.
when you get older and everybody starts dying, then you
Yeah.
have someone to talk
you
to.
still have people to take care of you. I would a lot of people say too, yeah, there's so much to do. I want to do all this before I have kids.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that you could only do when you have kids, but it might make it better. Like going to Disneyland or something.
Yeah, that's
That'd
true.
be more fun to have kids and go, I feel like.
That's true.
Or traveling doesn't have to stop, maybe.
We have that on record now.
Uh-oh.
One of the positives of being
One.
of having kids.
The
You
positive.
can go to Disneyland together.
Didn't Disneyland say, or some theme park or something said you couldn't go unless you had a kid under a certain age?
Hmm.
And then someone said oh, well, that just incentivizes people kidnapping kids to go to this theme park.
That's I don't think
It's a
anyone
very,
would do that, kids.
I gotta go to Disneyland.
Kids are like, yay.
What are the disadvantages?
Of having kids?
What if you're
Yeah.
trying to raise your kid, but the kid is just...
I mean, what if you can't afford a house right now, and then
Well,
which is
that too.
everyone, and then you try and have a kid, and on top of that, that's
Yeah.
what I would think the negative outlook comes from, rising costs and just the threat of like global warming, war, all this stuff that's going on right now. I would say the same thing until I saw like a very positive like solution to climate change and everything, right? Oh, what is this?
It's a submarine. We are losing our contact from the other side of the planet right now. Oh, I think she's back.
These beeps aren't good.
Well, at least we do have a contact.
I suppose.
Is that a diss on Daniel?
The other thing I was thinking, in the past, people had kids because they were poor and they needed the kids to help them with the economy. It's interesting you say now it's not worth your while,
Wow.
If you think as an economist, is it worth your while to have a kid?
That's interesting.
For your own personal gain, financially, maybe not.
Well, I mean, there's like tax incentives of getting married, having kids.
Yeah, that's true. But does it outweigh, like,
Probably
I don't know, the cost of a formal education? Food is not that expensive for additional people. But they're going to want an allowance,
Yeah.
if you're growing up
Even
in
just,
the
like, diapers
suburban.
and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, diapers.
Like activity costs, daycare.
Yeah.
Especially in a place like the Bay Area where a dual income is pretty much necessary. You can't have a parent like staying at home, so you probably need daycare.
That's true.
So all of these like decisions. I mean, if you were to go somewhere else, I'm sure that outlook is more positive. Like Nebraska, maybe. I don't know. You went through the country. How would you say the birth rate was different?
I don't know how the birth rate is
Please
different.
share the.
I didn't.
What does that traveling
I didn't.
journalist have to
I
say?
walked into the woods most of the time.
And how many kids were there?
A few in some regions, not a lot in others. Yeah, I don't know. I think. Oh, we have a Daniel Rana here. Go to Iceland. They have great programs for social welfare.
Programs.
Okay.
Okay. You got it.
I guess we're talking about social welfare.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty interesting too. Like outside of our bubble, right? The Silicon Valley bubble, the U.S. bubble, like Europe, and even like China, who's like a communist country, right? Everything there would be so different. But it's something I never think about. Right?
Yeah,
like all these problems that we face day to day, I'm sure it's way different everywhere else. Like,
that's true.
Even in a developed country, I'm sure the problems, like day to day problems or like future outlook, is.
So, Stanford graduate, where you have the design thinking concept.
Is she talking about me?
And like
I didn't go to
being
Stanford.
Have our needs changed? Do we now need convenience all the time?
Well, I guess I couldn't really answer like
Because I
today.
don't remember anyone. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say like I could see like looking into the future. I could see something changing like with like more jobs getting automated, stuff like that. Different tools and resources available to us. But the current day, I guess I couldn't answer. Uh-oh.
We're back in the submarine.
This beeping is ominous.
Well, it being cute as people wanting them. I guess the cuteness isn't enough for them to be wanted.
Of kids?
Cuteness is temporary too.
True.
Like, at first they start out real ugly.
Yeah.
And then
So I've
about
heard.
6 months to a year later, they start getting a little fatter.
A little cuter.
Yeah.
A little plumper.
And then maybe about 4 or 5 is when you realize if you have a spoiled brat or not.
Yeah. I heard once they can start talking to is when it's like...
When they start getting sassy.
Yeah, it starts getting really difficult. But this is all from the untrained
Tell
eye.
us about
yes.
sassiness.
I don't like sassy people.
Yeah.
I surprisingly like it.
You like sassy
Sassiness.
people?
It's, to an extent, like a humorous sassiness, or like I know what I want sassiness.
A witty banter, so to
A
speak.
witty banter.
Someone who can banter.
Someone who can wittily.
Banter. Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Yeah. I have, yeah.
So,
I don't know if we missed
go
it.
ahead,
or-
Ajit.
Oh,
I'm
no.
waiting for you to say what you're saying.
Sorry, the stream is very choppy.
Delayed, yeah.
I forgot what I was going to say. Please go ahead.
Yeah,
was
I
trying
would
to
only want
filibuster.
kids if like...
I was just going to ask you about their butt photos.
Oh, speaking of, I almost got one of Nabil today. Bare butt photos. I don't think that bothers anyone here. It seems to be a trend. A lot of mooning. And...
what Anika is referring to
Baby
is
photos.
Faisal had recently showed us a picture
Of his butt?
Yes, as a baby.
Oh, because I've seen a different version.
And then I have a very similar photo when I was a baby. I had replicated it too. I don't know if you remember.
Do you remember that? I heard
As
we're
an
getting
adult.
the picture from Pakistan.
Yeah, so their mission is to find that picture.
Please, Anika, Auntie,
It's
find this picture.
buried somewhere. But for years, we didn't realize that my butt cheeks were in the picture because it was like hidden in the back, kind of. I was lying down, but you couldn't tell like I was lying like a U.
Oh, okay.
And then
seen
later
the
on,
current
we
version,
saw
yeah.
the butt cheeks.
The
so.
butt cheeks.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, how's at what age is it not okay to take pictures of a baby in a bath or something anymore?
When they're not a baby, I guess.
When does that happen? Like 4 years old, 5 years old, or is that still cute?
I guess you're gonna have to be a judge. It's kind of
I don't know if I would ever post, like, if I had a baby, I don't think I'd ever post a picture of the baby naked. Ever.
yeah, on like social media.
Yeah. Taking them is a different story, but posting them, I would say...
I guess I wouldn't have a problem, but I also don't. I barely post pictures as it is today.
That's true too, yeah.
I guess if I would post videos. Like
Yeah.
I post videos, so would I post a video of a naked baby?
Yeah, is that illegal, by the way?
I don't think so.
At what age is it, like, illegal to do that? Because, yeah, I'm sure, like, baby photos are fine, but...
I'm sure every video community has different terms of service, so you'd have to look into that.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. We could have a whole podcast on this.
What is the new graduate?
You
Since
remember.
we have Ajit as a guest, what is the new graduates program of in the future?
The outlook of my future?
I don't know. Whatever
Or just like-
you're planning to do now that you're not in school
Yeah.
anymore.
That's an interesting question. I've tried to think about... You know what's weird? So I did technically, like, finish my degree, even though my graduation date is still in June, because, like, they just have one ceremony for everyone. I technically finished in April. I don't feel... Like, it just flew by. I didn't even, like, really... It didn't really register with me that I was
Flew by
done.
for us too.
Yeah. Well,
1 second year at Stanford, and the
yeah,
next
right?
second
Now
you're
I'm
out of
just
there.
working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I kind of breezed by it. Like, I finished, I had a week of spring break, and then I joined full-time at work, and it didn't really hit me. So I'm excited for, like, the graduation ceremony and everything, so it can really sink in. But I can say it's definitely, like, I enjoy just working a lot better. Now, I finished undergrad, and I worked for a year, all the while kind of applying for grad school. Then I did, a couple of years of working while doing school, so part-time school, full-time work. Then for 1 quarter, I had full-time school and I did part-time work, 10 hours a week. And I would say that was the most difficult. So now this transition to full-time work and just work has been pretty
Nice.
It's been very nice, yeah.
Because now you can just focus on one thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I could imagine that'd be pretty hard.
Yeah, I don't have to switch the context of my mind. Now, going in, I thought it'd be way easier to do like one class at a time and have work, because then you just have like 2 contexts, And I thought work and school would be pretty similar, and it kind of was to an extent. But having to sit down and do homework with deadlines and study for a test and stuff, and I can say now it kind of outweighed work in my mind. I was like, work, there's deadlines and stuff. People will understand, you can always you always have to do your work, but there's always work to be done, and you can kind of put your foot down. With school, it's not like that, right? If you have a deadline or a test, you have to take the test.
Right.
So I had to prioritize that in my mind, and
So are they false deadlines? Because that's usually being in education. One of the things we say is you better get your work in on time, because when you start working, you're not going to be able to break that deadline. Do we create false deadlines in education?
That is interesting, because on one hand, I've heard of people at private schools and stuff, they can just go to their professor and be like, look, I had an interview or something, I'm going to take an extra week, and they'd mostly be fine. At public schools like UC Davis, I noticed that teachers wouldn't really care as much unless you had a relationship with them. It's an upper division class. So I would say the deadlines, even in a school setting in college, were sometimes not that firm, if you had a good reason. But at work, I would say it's even more, maybe... I mean, I've seen even I at different companies, like we had hard deadlines, like a product needs to go out at this time or something. And even that could change. So depending on, as long as you had like an answer, I would say the deadlines weren't that strict at work. And you could always get more people to help you, or you could collaborate. Like if you're like, look, this is you, like, we need this thing by tomorrow. What's the status? Oh, it's not going well. Okay, here's a team of like 3 extra people. Just you guys collaborate and get it done, right? So whereas with school, it's not necessarily like that. If you have an individual programming assignment and you're not able to get it done, the day before, the professor's not going to be like, all right, well, you can have these people. They just be like, turn in what you have.
I guess the difference is the teachers are saying you won't have any excuses for it. If you said something in your work like, oh, I can't get this done because I didn't manage my time correctly, that's not going to fly.
That's not going to fly, no.
But if you're on top of everything, things can change because your manager will, if they're logical enough, they'll be like, okay, yeah, we didn't manage this properly or whatever. Let's push this out.
Yeah, it's more of like a collaborative effort then, whereas the professor knows, like, I've taught this class before, people can get this done in a week. When you have work, it's also like, okay, I don't know how this is going to get done. So if it's not done in time, it's also partly on me. A good manager would realize it's also partly on me for not assigning the right resources and time schedules and everything. But there's usually pretty clear feedback, like, hey, I'm trying to get this done at this time, but here are the blockers or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say, I would say that like school always prepares you for a way of thinking more than like a lot of people will come out of school and be like, I don't use my degree at all. Like,
did you learn how to learn?
Yes.
I think that's probably a big valuable thing.
So you learn like how to keep deadlines because it is more strict in school. I would say they are, yeah. You're kind of teaching false deadlines, but for a reason because you're teaching how to learn.
How about the subject matter specifically? Like going through this program, can you now start doing research on some new technology that's related to whatever you studied? And could you kind of build some knowledge base on your own?
Yes. I would say so. Okay. I think the way that I kind of structured my classes and my degrees, I would say that I learned very practically. On everything that I've learned in school is pretty much applicable to the job that that I do now. Maybe some of it is abstracted away, or I don't need to use all of it on day to day. But having an understanding of maybe some of the harder classes that I don't use every day is also beneficial to me. Like certain classes I took, if I learned something, and school will always do that too. School will teach you like a lot of the bare bones stuff that you might not need to know. For example, my girlfriend is like in school to be a nurse, and she was saying that like she needed help with math once, so she came over with like a lot of formulas. Like, hey,
what's 2 + 2?
No. Well, I was actually amazed that
I was trying to come up with a funnier one, but that's the only thing. Clearly, that's the level of my knowledge.
What's math?
2 + 2?
These were like ratios of like going back to like my chemistry class. Like, I need this many milligrams of this solution. How do I like dilute her? Some different ratios and stuff you have to play with. And I was actually surprised that I remembered some of this stuff. I could help her out. And then we were talking about it, and she's like, yeah, it's stupid because, like, right now you just put it in the computer. Like, I need this much dosage, and it'll spit out a pill or something, right? But she's like, most hospitals would have that in the U.S., but if I were to go to, like, a third world country, then you need to do all this by hand. So they have to teach you. And now on a computer science or, like, electrical engineering front, you would learn, like, C in school first, where you have to like explicitly manage memory and everything. Right. But if you get on the job, you'd use Java or something.
Right. It was important to understand how the system works as opposed to just using the system or something like that.
Now, even Java would abstract away like your memory management and stuff. But if you needed like a performance critical application, you could understand like, oh, if I like do this loop differently, it would access memory in a different fashion, and then it makes things easier.
Or even if you acknowledge what the problem is, even if you don't know how to solve it.
Exactly.
That's usually good enough.
But school teaches you how to learn, which could be very detrimental, I would say, like in certain subject matters or certain like if the curriculum is outdated, and you're learning one way of doing something, but industry is completely separate, which is why I liked Stanford a lot. Like they're very like up to date on. I mean, I had a hardware acceleration class, which was not really like found at any other school as far as I know.
Interesting.
And that was super beneficial. That like 3 months that I spent in that class was, for what I wanted to do, was super beneficial to me. So now I have that knowledge.
So it sounds like it sounds like now with your masters, you could potentially teach, and it sounds like you're thinking about like a teacher thinks.
Yeah, I would love to.
Do you ever consider teaching a class here or there?
I absolutely, yeah. And I remember asking you too, Nikanti. I was asking what because a lot of the professors you have to have a PhD, but you said at community college level you could teach at the master's.
College you don't.
But I have to teach my subject matter, so I couldn't teach math.
Yes.
But I have to teach engineering, and I would love to. I would, that's one thing I've been considering, or also tutoring, or some form of like college application help, or something like that. Time permitting, though. Ooh, that was a loud pop.
I don't know what that was. I don't think that's your fault.
No.
Okay, so on that note, you brought up the topic again of time, and earlier we talked about kids and the right time and the time to have fun. At one point in business programs, they started focusing on ethics because it was a major challenge.
Ethics.
Do you think, as you move forward, there will be courses on family, time management or having kids, so that the economy continues to boom because we need a younger generation? Do you think there'll be themes that the next 10 years that need to be taught?
I would I would say no based on our current education system, but I would say it's absolutely necessary. Like, I wish there were courses on doing your own taxes and stuff in high school where a lot of the subject matter doesn't matter. Like, going back, thinking about like social studies and history and stuff, if they just threw in a couple weeks of like, here's how the taxation system works and like, here's how you do your own taxes at a basic level, I would understand so much more right now, so much more valuable information while I'm doing my job and while I'm planning for my future. But that's even at a private school,
or even if you weren't into programming or whatever, just like this is how modern like applications are run. Yeah, all the media that you view on YouTube, like this is how it kind of works.
It's kind of funny because we were just talking about, I was like, a lot of people have no idea, would probably have no idea that the industry has shifted to cloud compute versus like personal, and now there's the edge compute shift, which you were like pretty familiar with too.
Yeah, what is that?
It's bringing it's bringing compute closer to the edge, the personal layer.
Okay, got you.
Outside of the data center, because now the bandwidth issues, like there's a lot of compute happening at the data center level where you're sending it through the network, which is a bottleneck, and bandwidth is expensive, so you can bring some of the compute closer and it'll be faster. Now there's a huge push for that, but it's just interesting that you could teach high schoolers and stuff how here's how things kind of work, because I would say, a lot of people wouldn't have any idea that like the cloud shift, how it happened, what in the past 10 years, even like what the shift was, what's common.
And even
now.
If they don't know, even if they're not going into helping develop that directly, I'm sure that whatever business that they are interested in is going to be indirectly based on that.
Yeah,
so
I agree. Everyone I feel like needs to know.
Even their personal lives.
Yeah.
Even because this young woman that I've been kind of working with here, she mentioned the use of Facebook and how one of her friends was scared that her cell phone had got hacked, but she thinks it's somebody that she knows who hacked the phone. And so all her personal information has been made available somewhere. I don't know the intricacies of it, but there's this fear of technology and being online. And we were discussing how you can't not be engaged online. As things move forward, whatever level you're at, it'll have some impact on your personal lives and professional. And so she's considering of starting a business, and without social media, without some online participation, even payments or connection with customers and so on, so there's a fear, but this is very much a part of everybody's life.
That's
now.
a healthy
It would
fear,
be the equivalent of like saying, I'm not interested in like writing and like talking.
I guess so.
And it's like, well, you're gonna need that to get through.
If you start a business without any kind of online marketing, good luck having people find it.
Right.
Aside from
walk-in
foot traffic.
Foot traffic is not gonna be good
Word
enough.
of mouth. Alone, that's not gonna be. And word of mouth now happens online, so I feel like you can't even prevent that.
So if you said,
wait. What about that place in Mendocino, the bakery in Mendocino? Tell Ajit about that experience. Apparently they do no advertising.
Oh, well, there's interesting. Well, it was just the interesting thing was when I went to go pay, they said like, if you don't have, they only took cash. And like, if you don't have the cash now, like, here's an IOU, just send a check to this address. So it was like kind of you just trust that I'm gonna
Yeah.
give the money.
Pay for.
But yeah, I guess they didn't.
Daniel, are they on Yelp?
I don't know, Mom. But what? So they didn't advertise? Is that what the guy said?
He said they don't advertise, but apparently their bakery is it's lovely. I mean, you have to go there, Jeet. Their breads are
Yeah, it's pretty
excellent.
good.
We like
Yeah.
A sticky bun.
Wow.
Those are very good.
the sticky bun, and it wouldn't
That sound good.
support and was full, and they don't advertise, and it's local run. And I guess us coming in and saying, "Oh, you trust us," was a strange feeling that we had. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
why would you trust us? It's not that we would ever cheat anyone.
Although
I guess it's like a small town.
But,
yeah, I will say that's probably unique to them. I suppose it can work if you have a nice local
A very
community.
Yeah.
Very
business,
small.
though.
It sounds like
And-
small
and
town.
mainly tourists.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think as they're driving up.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Although
Yeah.
they do have online presence, to answer Daniel's question, because if you Google them on Google Maps,
Yeah.
Daniel says, I've talked with a lot of small business owners. They don't need to advertise, but they'll still be online. But yeah, I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
they're
like,
online too. And I'm
right.
pretty sure that's, actually, now that I think about it, to answer the question of the tourists are probably like, okay, we're on our way to Mendocino.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, there's this high-rated bakery thing
Right.
on the way.
Is it possible that they don't have their Yelp page, but like it's created for them?
Yeah, it
like,
might.
Or on Google Maps, like it's indexed, but they have no control over what's displayed, which in that case seems like kind of
Yeah.
scary for them because they're still online, but they don't know what people are.
Right. I'm sure they
Yes.
own it.
There you go.
Daniel says yes.
Huh.
So, I don't know what we're talking about.
Just like lack of online presence.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it seems like it's unavoidable now because
Yeah. I think it's, if you say no to technology, it's like saying, I don't want to learn how to write and
yeah,
talk.
I mean, internet is a basic like necessity now. It's billed as like a like a restroom. It's just a common necessity.
Utility.
Yeah, it's right. Like
electricity.
water, electricity, and yeah. What?
I like. Did you just say the internet is like a restroom?
You know what? In more ways than one. Yeah, I'll go
a
with
lot
that.
of shit on there.
I'm glad. I'm glad you called me on that. Yeah, I mean, I stick by that actually.
Yeah.
But-
Daniel.
I mean, going back to the ethics thing too, it's pretty interesting because, like, yeah, a lot of, even in my curriculum in high school and stuff, I had to take a ethics of engineering class too, and it was a lot of like, there was a lot of things like you're not allowed to accept gifts because that could be considered like a bribe and stuff. There was some like legalities that they talked about, but I think even more like ethics would be necessary coming into the future. Now this transition from like, the internet is now like a basic necessity, right? You can't assume people are going to live without it. Now, I think AI is also going to be in that front. So you need to have like studies of ethics. There are committees for like ethics that have since dissolved, like Google, Facebook have brought people together to talk about the ethics of AI, but that dissolves pretty quickly because people can't agree on, but that I think that's another push. I think without that education be at like our level, like teaching us what the ethics are, that could dissolve even quicker, like exponentially. The ethics of like our community could completely dissolve.
And I guess at this stage, it's because it's so new. It's not even like this is how we should do it. It's like, hey, how should we?
Yeah.
It's like humans have to agree on like what is the right thing. To do.
Exactly. Because this decision needs to be made. What's the I think I've talked about it on a previous podcast too. Like you have two cars coming to collide towards each other. One has babies. One has like just a single adult, like 40 years old. Which one does the car save? What does the and everyone would have a different opinion on that, I would think.
Yeah, that's true. As a customer, I said the same thing last time. I'd like myself to be saved first.
Save the person in the car.
I paid for this car, so I wanted to save me.
But yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting that like it's good that it's being taught in like business curriculum now. Then, but I mean, I could just see all these things like basic economy and stuff too. Like if a lot of things aren't taught, then they could dissolve even quicker with like, I mean, our technology has sped up exponentially, right? Like we have, I can't even remember how 2005 was because like,
I can't remember the time when like YouTube and Facebook weren't a thing. Not even that, I don't even use Facebook that much anymore, but just like.
But it's everywhere. It is everywhere.
Yeah.
Like
but there's a time where there
pass
wasn't, and I don't even remember that time.
Exactly. Right. And that was 10 years ago.
Yeah. here's a question I have of you on that context. And sorry about the lag. I tried to kind of pause it, but I think. But anyway, the question I came to mind was, we depend a lot on education, but nobody teaches anyone how to use Facebook or any of the. There's so many things that we do not learn in the classroom. And as you said earlier, there are a lot of things that are taught in the classroom that people do not even dig into to consider whether it's worth remembering.
Yeah.
Do you think, what are your thoughts?
It has to come from
that expectation of, how we learn as a society.
Yeah, I guess it would have to come from like the management of the educational institutes. So the superintendents and the principals have to bring it up, or have to, I don't know. I assume they're the ones who control the curriculum to a degree. I know.
No, faculty.
But there are.
Supposed to
but there are certain things that faculty have to cover, at least in high schools, don't they?
Yeah, I would assume
like they can pick their own, but they have to cover.
There are some expectations.
So I would assume that they would have these things about technology would have to be built into those mandatory things that you have to cover, and that would probably come from
the state or whatever, right?
Yeah, maybe state level, or I don't know. The educational, at least the community college educational system.
Policies, legislation. There's always an intersection between what legislators kind of suggest, what faculty through their academic freedom, and what the institutions themselves. So it's a combination of, and it's always a push and pull of how to prioritize. And that's the politics of education. How do you prioritize what is more important?
Although then I would also question
to be taught.
Just like the way that a lot of young people learn is just being online by themselves.
I've already heard like traditional schools are kind of like useless in today's society.
Yeah. But yeah, I would imagine that like there would be a lot of self-teaching. So then the question is like, would this even come from your traditional principals and superintendents? Or
here's an idea too. I've heard like even a few years ago I'd hear that like some schools are doing away with homework so that kids can just go home and play outside and have like a good time. But what if homework wasn't like go home and do this packet of math problems, right, that you should be learning in class? What if it was like, okay, now your time to just go home, watch these videos on like basic economics or
they
like
do have
taxes?
They call it the I was going to say the upside down classroom, but it's the reverse classroom where you you do the you work on stuff. But there's this school in New York which has tried to structure teaching as if it was a game, a video game, using those elements
gimmicky.
of gaming, which is so much a part of
What do you think?
business as well. So I guess for not even your generation, because you're now a more senior generation.
Yeah, that's
the younger
true.
generation, the concept of gaming is something that they are more comfortable with.
So for Ajit, he just said that sounds gimmicky. He also is he's not into the games that much, right?
Yeah, not real.
But if you think about it this way, it's very similar to engineering, I think.
Not games.
Yeah, so it's like
As in the concept of,
you actually break down gamification to the best of your knowledge from your understanding.
Elements of, and I should know this because this is a text that I'm using in my classroom, but I don't remember the exact. Jane McGonigal says reality is broken and we need to use the gaming concept to reinvent reality for younger people who lose themselves. And there's some elements of gamification about where you have a challenge, but it's a challenge accomplishable enough where you will stay engaged, and there'll be some reward, and there'll be some elements of reward as you keep going. So an example of applying gamification in the business world is when we get rewards points, which were not a part of business in the past, but now, like Daniel going and staying in what were the benefits of the card he was using as he was traveling
the
through
Chase Sapphire Reserve. This podcast brought to you by.
Yes. So those kind of concepts, but applying them in a variety of different contexts.
So it's not so much about
you stay engaged.
And the way I think about it is it's not so much about, oh, we're having fun playing a game. It's the people who like take games seriously, where it's like you're understanding, like an engineer would, you're trying to understand like mechanics of the game. What are the rules and what is the like best play to win? So it's more of that as opposed to like, I mean, rewards is one thing.
Becoming, having control over some area as opposed to being controlled on all levels. So, and I agree with you, Ajit, that to some extent, some of these ideas are usually gimmicky and they can't work in their whole extent. So I do agree with you that way.
Have you seen that Black Mirror episode, by the way, of like, it's like, it's an office, I guess it's a workplace where people like, they live there, they, they have to like do certain challenges to get rewards and they like move up the ladder that way. They basically have like a point system.
Oh, I remember the episode. Is it the one where like if you do something bad, your like social media account goes down in points?
No, not that one. That one's interesting too. This one I think was like in the very first season. They it's like a workplace and they all would like every morning go on the bike. They have to like watch TV.
Oh,
like,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
So that was actually like introduced to a workplace. I saw it on Twitter and someone commented, "Oh, okay, this is exactly the Black Mirror episode." Yeah. Where like workplaces like this, I don't know if it was Amazon, but let's say it's Amazon. They have to like pack the boxes and stuff. After a certain amount, they get points and like they. So it's a gamification of work, right? Like you get rewards and stuff. You get rewarded based on how productive you are.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't like it. Yeah, that's
why don't
creepy.
You like that?
I mean, the Black Mirror episode is why I don't like it because it seems so creepy. Like, oh, here's your points, and you can unlock like different episodes of TV or however it works.
Yeah.
But it does seem like it seems too
would
controlling,
you argue?
like
okay,
contrived.
Yeah, it that's not like necessarily gimmicky for me. It's just more like it seems so, I don't want to say slavery, but it seems kind of like too controlling.
Machiavellian.
Okay, well,
what?
Machiavelli.
Oh, Machiavelli. Yeah.
But okay, so for jobs that are a bit more straightforward and mundane, I guess, could you argue that this would be a good way to would hardworking people work hard in these situations?
I mean, it's interesting. It could work. It could be like,
because I know it would not work in something where you have to be creative. Because how would you value that?
Yeah,
like you'd have to be able to. There'd have to be
like a reward that you would,
or the work has to be measurable.
Right, that's one thing. Yeah.
If it's something like very abstract, and it's like, how would you measure that?
Right, exactly. That's what already like it introduces kind of imbalance, right? Of like mundane work versus like how do you? I
have a question about measuring.
Yeah.
And particularly, in the concept even of grading, which relates to that. I'm starting to doubt, or kind of not be fully aware, because you know how some people, and this, both of you, that some people might get grades but cannot perform.
Like they're academically smart, but they're not practically smart.
Whether it's at work or whether it's, so you might be high performing in one level, but you missed out on something else that has like, for example, Jack Ma and his kind of education, but his concept, him being an example of someone who
this
took
is the CEO of Alibaba. For those
there was no way that being an English teacher relates to the business.
He was an English teacher.
Really?
And he started Alibaba.
Yes. There's no way it.
Did you?
Sorry, go ahead. I'll stop talking.
Okay. No.
The video.
The video got weird on our side for some reason, but now it's better. I'll bring in Daniel's comment here. Can you grade based on experience versus getting a letter grade from performance? Wait, can you grade based on experience?
Just getting a letter grade. I mean, it's kind of interesting because we kind of talked about this the last time I was on the podcast too, where like, the 8-hour work week doesn't really work because you don't have like measurable tasks anymore necessarily.
But yeah, I don't think this thing would work. It would work for robots, but I don't think it works for humans.
Yeah. You could also lose like valuable employees based on like a poor like letter grade or performance one
Right.
quarter. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I have no answer to this.
Yeah.
I'm sure that this has definitely been thought of a lot, and it seems like whatever's in place is kind of the best option we have. Even
Yeah, I
as
agree.
far as like Amazon having warehouse workers that are just, and I think that like performance, the point system was probably a similar type of job. Like, oh, you put out this many packages or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't. I'm sure for some people it works. I'm sure for some people it definitely doesn't. I don't think like having a reward system would change how those people think. Even if it did, it would probably be temporary. Like if you had a
If you can
worker-
put a reward system for that kind of job, then you can also automate it, I think, with a
Yeah,
robot.
that's true.
So I think you're better off spending your time automating it, as opposed to
like
whipping
incentive.
out this reward system.
Also, like temporarily, it could be the reward system while the like automation aspect is going on in the background. But also, I was kind of thinking about this too. I guess like salesman of the month or like employee of the month, those are also reward systems just that have been in place forever, and I'm sure continue to this day.
Yeah.
Like small rewards of like recognition or
Right.
whatever small reward would come with that, right? Like also patents. If at a lot of companies, if you file a patent, which is like super valuable IP to the company, they'll like help you get it published. They'll pay all the lawyer fees and have review processes, but you get a check for like $1,000 for all your hard work.
Because they're going to own the patent.
You're right, exactly.
Okay,
so you get rewarded they give you some incentive to do that, but like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like nothing. That could be nothing in the scale of things. Like this patent could generate
At that
a lot
point,
of
you
revenue.
quit and you go start it yourself.
But then you have to pay like hundreds of thousands to file a patent too,
Yeah, that's
and
true.
that's another blocker, especially for
Well,
something that might not ever be like commercially
right.
viable.
That's
So
true.
that's, I mean, that it's all kind of related, but it just seems it seems like the world has taken the shape just off of experience. Then I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't be comfortable giving away like IP to a company for like $1,000 if it was really good. But on
you
the other
couldn't-
hand, I get the recognition from the company.
Yeah. If you couldn't afford to go through the process, would you then feel comfortable?
Yeah, especially if it was just something that was super like industry relevant, like something related
Something
to
that
this
you
company.
couldn't just go launch on your own. 'Cause
Right, exactly.
It's such a niche.
Yeah, it's a small piece of this puzzle that the company's building, but
Right.
and you get the recognition for a company. You can put it on your resume. That's like,
I think that alone should be a reward system. Is like
yeah, exactly.
you being able to come up with these new innovative solutions to your industry's problems.
Yeah, then you're valuable. As an
Even if you
employee.
don't, if you're able to do that at a company, and so technically they own it and you
Yeah.
don't, if you're able to do that a few times,
Right.
then
You've
and you
established,
should be
like-
getting paid a decent amount. Where then at
Yeah.
a certain point you can be like, all right, I quit and I'm gonna go
Right.
start my own thing.
Yeah, it also benefits you as like your intellect gets approval. You get to establish your
Yeah.
thought processes.
Is there a way to bridge the gap between people who are not interested in technology to get them like, I don't know, to just use technology for their industries?
Well, I think that just, I think yes. I think things can be abstracted away, right? Like, for example, you could have like AI is, I wouldn't say it's super niche anymore, but a lot of people couldn't just jump right in and start like I mean, there are models out there that you could tune and train, and like you could utilize it really well for your business, like just predicting like inventory and stuff. Like you could, but you need the data for that, right? So people can then make it easier. Like, hey, if you have all this stuff, you have all this data from your store, give it to us and we'll make it like, or we'll show you how to like utilize it well, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of things you can like abstract away. Like you could use the buzzwords, but they don't have to know anything behind the scenes of like, here's technology that you could use to,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's,
So I'm going to throw a wrench in your conversation now that the connection is a bit clearer.
oh, cool.
Is that, with our need for efficiency and kind of all of that, is that where the baby element messes things up? Because there is no efficiency in babyhood.
Oh, having a kid, you're saying?
Yes, yes.
Well, I guess it depends how you're thinking about it. If you're thinking about it on a macro level of like managing humans,
Yes.
that's different than like
Yes,
a personal
exactly.
level where it's like I want to raise a family. There's two different objectives. So which one are we going for?
You go for whichever one you think is worth.
Well, which one are you interested in, Ajit?
What do you, like?
Thinking about like having kids. Like,
Okay.
what is the benefits of having kids, and is there a way to efficiently have them and raise
Okay,
them?
I see,
And
yeah.
on the macro level of thinking
Uh-huh.
is like, as a society, how should people go about this? And then there's just like on a micro level, like how do I want to have a
personal level.
Stop me if I'm derailing the conversation, but I was kind of
Right.
thinking that, okay, like, yeah, how do you, like, you could use tech right now to help, like, raise a kid, right?
Sure.
Let's say that's kind of where my mind was going with this conversation. And I have heard it's easier to raise kids now than it was, like, I'm sure when we were kids, it was much harder. You didn't have phones. You didn't have, now you can have, like, you could have, like, Reddit communities for how to raise, like, different resources. You don't necessarily need to read like a baby book. You could read like a blog on like, here's what works with kids. Here's what you should expect. You have Amazon Subscribe and Save. Diapers can get delivered to your door every week.
Mm-hmm.
You have, different, like even, tech that's been around for a while, like breast pumps and stuff. You have things that,
You could hire babysitters
Right.
with the reviews,
right,
or
background
whatever.
checks on. I was going to say that too, like Rover for kids. I don't know if that exists, but
I don't even know what Rover
I would,
is.
it's for dog
I'm sure
babysitting.
there
No,
is.
I don't
Sorry?
know what it is.
I said, I'm sure there is something.
Yeah, I'm
and,
sure,
and then
right?
you have video cameras as well.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like Nest cams and stuff for like instead of just a baby monitor, you could have a drop cam in your room that,
When they're like 12 or 13, they'll be mooning you a lot.
Yeah.
Stop watching me, Mom.
Real as a kid.
I'm fine.
You could also have like the AI detection and the cameras now, I'm sure, and like, maybe now, maybe in this day, but maybe certainly in like a year or two, you could have like, oh, your baby's crying.
But does that sound like Black Mirror?
Yeah.
Does this all of what you just listed? Does that sound Black Mirror-ish?
Everything too. And it's funny, like I'm sure everything sounds kind of Black Mirror-ish to this day. Like anything.
Should
I
you be
hear in the
watching
news-
your kids at all time? Is
I
that a requirement for a healthy kid?
Yeah, I would say no. I would say like a certain level of freedom. But I watch my dog like a hawk if I'm ever like uncomfortable with the situation, Like if I have a friend over or something, I'm like, all right, what's gonna happen? Like I don't want him to get hurt. I don't want him to hurt someone.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to answer. I would say yeah. I like as a child, I would like my freedom.
Mm-hmm.
But as a parent, or as someone who has like a responsibility over someone, I'd be like,
It'd be
I need to
hard.
watch that thing. You could also have like, to finish my thought from before too, like gene editing and stuff. That's a tech that's there to this, like it's there right now, but maybe to not a high
And that,
extent.
I guess that could be not. I was gonna say that's more of a macro level thing to think about, but actually,
Yeah.
I mean, if it gets down to your personal preferences on, I want a
Yeah,
kid
right.
that has
like blonde hair and
Yeah.
yeah.
blue eyes,
Blue eyes.
Aryan race,
I didn't say it.
but that's what it feels
But
like.
if you could like make sure my kid will never have any of these genetic issues or this, that, like,
Yeah,
that would certainly make it easier, I would think, for parenting a kid.
I mean at that point it even just changes the whole.
Yeah.
I mean, are you having a kid for you, or are you having a kid so the kid can be a kid,
Or be a productive member of society, which goes back to the economic, like, China doesn't have kids in the certain age
Yeah.
range it needs, so will government step in?
See, I'm ready to
They
just
need
throw all this human stuff away and let's just work on the robots.
I mean,
And then they can kill us and it'll be done. Then they can
give them
handle
the
those
earth,
problems.
yeah. Let them inherit the earth.
Yeah.
Um,
Because at that point, it's like, I don't know. I can't even wrap my brain around.
right?
Now the
Exactly.
desires are different, It's like
Yeah.
you're forming a reality for yourself as opposed to like,
And if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, like there's, the universe is huge.
yeah.
Like there's, it is at that high level of thinking. Then does it even matter?
Yeah.
Like
Yes, that's true.
Well, you were talking about macro versus macro.
Yeah.
Like, does it really matter at that point what your kid does? Like,
That's true.
So yeah, I don't know. There's too much to think about. I think
Just-
this
we
generation
gotta
is thinking
You
about
take-
it. A
put
lot.
your-
this-
Go
so-
ahead.
So now that this is out there, Jeet, you know your kid will throw this back at you. Does it even matter? Anything now, does it even matter?
I mean, not to that extent. Like, I would obviously care.
Managing human societies doesn't matter, maybe.
Right, like the small mistakes you make, does it really matter? Is what I meant. I
Yeah.
guess like
You murder someone, it'll matter because now
I
you're going to
agree.
jail forever.
Yeah. Like, But if your kid drops out of school or something, or isn't like an engineer when you wanted him to be an engineer, and instead becomes an artist, like these little problems that a lot of parents like stress about in, you know, previous generations or whatever, like even to this day, I'm sure. But I think there needs to be some kind of like let control of the reins, right? Like let the world play out.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Like I guess that's kind of what I meant. Like some problems aren't just not worth stressing about.
So what is the consensus about the macro or the micro level of the human element?
I would say just try and
matter?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I think Nabil's a very good child. Same with Daniel. I think Anik Auntie and Munam Uncle raised them right. I would say they're pleasant to be around. They're productive members of society. They're, you know, you're not out killing people. I don't think you're not like trying to cause harm in the world. I would say as long as that's established, then, you know, the job of the parent has been done right. The job of the child, you know, has also been, like, there's no mistakes there.
So it's fairly nice and easy and doable now.
I'm sure it wasn't.
It's much easier to have kids.
Be respectable. The kids should come out, you know.
Yeah.
Respectable.
Yeah.
Be able to agree to disagree.
Right. Exactly.
That's the part of the hardest
Disciplined.
thing.
Yeah.
Agreeing with people, that's cool. But like when you come to disagreements, you have to learn how to like live with these people.
Yeah. I mean, Daniel brings up a good point here.
Oh, sorry. Daniel's coming in here. Having a child increases motivation to work harder. Your purpose becomes making a better life for your child.
That's true.
But a child is not needed in life.
I don't know about that last point, but Daniel got too deep. I agree with that, though. Having a child will like change your perspective. It'll make you like everything's for them now, and that's not even like a bad thing. That's just how I've heard. That's how your mind changes as a parent. Like right now, my priorities are probably like travel, maybe try and buy a house or whatever. Mm-hmm. But if I were to have a kid, it'd be like make sure this kid is.
Can you not foster that motivation for yourself? Like, I want a better life for myself, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think that's how it should be. Like no matter what you have in life, it should be like build a better life for me or people who are surrounding me. And I think that's how productive members.
Because then I think it makes it way easier to provide a better life for other people.
If you're thinking about
if you've improved your life so much,
right? Yeah.
I don't know. I just think you're in a position of power usually to then go make.
That's usually where like money comes into play, right? Like the richest people have the most say.
We have a question from Monim.
All right.
So the question is, if you're not going to have a child, why should you leave anything on this earth after you're gone?
I agree.
What's your motivation?
For the other humans.
What do you define as things? What do you think?
Whether it's the environment or resources or...
So he's a larger question of...
So that just, well, first of all, that reveals if you don't want to leave anything for anyone, you don't care about other humans. Oh, wait, we disconnected.
Uh-oh. Are we back?
Let's see. We're going to wait. I don't know if you can hear us on the other end, but we're going to wait for a little bit here. I think we're coming back here. I hear you.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Uh-oh.
Did we lose you again?
Say yes if we did.
Beep, beep.
I'm just gonna
disappear. Well, I guess we'll just try and answer the question.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, you bring up a good point. Yeah, you leave an impact for
other
humans. Yeah.
So the question was,
whether or
why should you, if you're not gonna have kids, why do you care to like become successful and then theoretically leave a lot of resources for the rest of them?
I didn't really think about that aspect, leaving it for other people, but like on a smaller scale, even if if your success is like you have a house and stuff, I guess that doesn't necessarily matter. Like if you're not leaving it for the next generation, like owning a house doesn't matter then, and that does change your priorities. And a lot of people will just go travel the world and not have like, a life established anywhere.
Yeah, and you have to have, I guess. Go ahead.
The connection is not. Yeah, go ahead.
Scale, why do you, for the environment, why do you care about the environment if you're not going to be around?
Yeah.
Things are not going to be around.
It's just, I think it's a grander plan that you just have to believe in. It's like when you invented the transistor, you're like, wow, we can one day
that's
do
true.
something
That's
crazy,
true.
but I know that we're not going to do it in my lifetime.
That's a good
So
point.
at that point, it's just up to the person. If you're willing to, believe in something that's greater than yourself, then that's good. And if not, I don't know if I should do counterclockwise.
I was gonna say clockwise, but we're back now.
Okay. Glad I don't know stuff. Ignorance is
Ignorance is
me.
bliss. Yeah, no, I agree with both points there. Actually, that's pretty interesting. At a higher level, what impact would you try and leave on the earth if you didn't plan to have kids or didn't have kids? But yeah, I mean, it's just for the betterment of humanity. Hopefully, leave the future generation with. And I don't know, maybe that changes with age too. Like at 25, I kind of agree. Like, I don't know, I guess I wouldn't really care about leaving an impact if I didn't have kids. I would just try and like live out my life as I wanted.
Right.
Or maybe when I'm 50 and if I was 50, I didn't have kids, I would be like, well, actually I could leave just like a longer lasting impact, even by cleaning up my community or something. People will remember that and leave it better for the next generation. Maybe recognition too, just stamping your name in the history books.
Yeah.
I
guess that would feel good if you were still alive while that happened.
Right, exactly.
Or I guess even the idea of it.
Yeah, like, I hope I'm a good enough human where people look back and like, because again, in the grander scheme of things, in the scale of the entire universe,
it doesn't matter.
Most of the time. But I'm sure people always remember like certain names, right? Like Steve Jobs has probably been stamped in the history books now. Like,
it would be cool to work on something that pivots humanity as a whole, kind of like how Steve Jobs did, or Bill Gates, or
the inventors of the internet, which is, I guess, unclear what name I would throw out there.
Yeah, the invention of the internet. I mean, wasn't it, what do you call it? The Bell Labs? Weren't they the ones who... Like
Cisco was founded out of Stanford in the need of like just connecting two departments via like cable, right? Like so that people could email each other outside of the department.
Okay.
That could be, like Cisco has a big impact on the history of the internet,
right.
But I don't know who I would attribute like the internet to. Yeah, there are names.
That's true. But yeah, it would be cool to. But that also stuff.
But yeah,
that stuff doesn't come that intentionally. Like,
I'm sure. Yeah,
it just kind of you picked something. First of all, just tackling like being interested in things is like I don't know. It's a huge. For me, it's hard sometimes to like stay motivated. So like, and then it's like depends on the field you're in, and then it'll just be at this time if you're in technology and you are working hard at it, there's a high chance that you'll make these
if you pick the right industry and like it's just hoping that you leave a better tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah.
Or hoping that you can just drive progress. Like hopefully in my lifetime I would see this, but hey, even if I were to like put this out there and people in 50 years would use this, that would be pretty cool.
But then now that I think about it, I don't even think about that stuff on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
On a day-to-day basis, the people who are working hard are the ones who are thinking about solving the problems, like that are right in front of you.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, Monem, that answers it, I guess. Put your head down and like keep working on whatever you're working on.
I see we're coming up on time, but Nabil, I did want to ask you about your career goals now.
Yeah. So
I want to get an update.
Oh, yes. Whenever someone asks for an update on my career goals,
it's stressful. I know.
It's not even stressful. It's like I don't even know how to answer it because a lot of it's just I'm learning stuff. Mm-hmm. And whenever I learn things, I will say like I understand what I want to work on.
Okay, so what is that? What in the last minutes that we
developing APIs on top of cloud services or through that methodology.
Okay.
So like being able to say, okay, we want this kind of feature in our, let's say we have an existing application.
Okay.
And we want feature X that does something. I can then go through a list of cloud services and be like, okay, if I match like an in-memory database with a couple of these things, and I can spin those up through code.
Okay.
So now not only am I managing the resources, and then I'm managing the actual functionality of it
use
too.
Like Lambda or whatever to just spin
exactly.
up. Okay.
And so being able to go from we want this feature to implementing it and having control over that and being able to do it relatively quickly is what I'm interested in doing.
That's pretty cool actually. I could see a real use case for that on a lot of like small business fronts especially. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then of course I have my I want to do something with game engines. That's kind of my really long-term plan.
Okay.
But these are kind of the tools that will help me, well, one, get a job, and two, help me build my real dream application or whatever.
So where would you see yourself then? Like what?
Yeah,
do you
what
have
kind of
some
company?
names or like
I have no company
industry?
names.
Okay.
So, but it's really companies that are building software, their applications, on like cloud infrastructure.
Okay. And then you want to enable them to
Yeah, and
you
even
wanna
if I'm
build
working
APIs to
on
enable
part
them
of it,
for-
like
okay.
as long as that's how they build apps. If I can be just part of that, like on some team.
Daniel asked MuleSoft, which I'm not familiar with.
MuleSoft. Okay, so they're the ones. They were just bought off. Well, I say just, but it's been probably a year or two now. They're bought off by, I don't even remember. They're bought
It's
for
like
like
a gaming-
3.6 billion. No, so they're
Okay.
not gaming. So actually, we mentioned this just now earlier.
Yeah.
They make APIs. So
Okay.
Wells Fargo, a bank, will have information about their customers, but they don't know how to
Oh,
extract that info and turn it into something useful.
right.
So these guys build APIs for those
I
companies,
see.
and now they have a better vision of
Okay.
what their customers are like and things
Yeah.
like that.
That kind of sounds like I was talking about. Like small businesses could use AI. They
Right.
just don't know how.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then
So that's what those guys do.
Okay.
Oh, Salesforce
Oh,
bought them.
Salesforce,
Okay.
Interesting.
But yeah, so
that
but
makes
so
sense.
one, I want to work for a company that rolls out their apps on the cloud, and two, I want to specifically work on like building API backend functionality for I guess front end guys. So I could be
Yeah.
like, all right, here are your hooks, front end guys.
Right.
You go make the UI. I'll do the
Yeah. You just have
writing
passing info.
databases or whatever functionality they need. So
That is pretty cool. I see.
but it's a
need for that.
big, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So
It seems like you can elaborate on what like you can articulate.
yeah,
Well,
I'm hoping
now.
that's how I'd go. And then
Yeah.
I'm slowly building. I have 2 repos on my GitHub.
That's
So,
important. Yeah.
So there's live code that they're basically templates to spin up. So like I have something I call like an authentication CloudFormation template. So CloudFormation is the AWS's version of infrastructure via
Oh,
code.
okay, yeah.
So if you literally copy and pasted that into your terminal and you had a configured AWS account, if you enter in like 4 or 5 parameters, you could spin up the same type of resources you would need
okay.
to like have a kind of shell of a authentication system.
Yeah, and that's really important for people trying to like build apps and stuff too. I'm sure. It's
That's
how
like
do I even,
that's like a standard too.
Yeah.
Authentication stuff is like obviously in this day and age, everybody will sign in. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, they'll hopefully sign in with like a existing like Google account or something, because that makes it easier. But yeah, so
Okay.
so that's what I'm working on. So, and sometimes it feels slow, but I'm in my mind, I validate it by saying just take your time, and like as long as I'm still interested in it, because in the past I'd like learn how to program and then I would just get out of it. I'm like, oh, I don't like this.
Yeah.
So it's like for me, I'm in the stage of like, all right, just like push myself to just stick with it, and that's taking some time. I mean, when I quit my job, I was like, yeah, in 3 months I'm gonna learn, and then bam, I'm gonna start applying for
Yeah.
jobs. And then eventually I was just like, okay, I'm gonna take the time limit off of it, and then
Okay, that's fair.
I think I made progress. And I basically, as soon as I finish this chat application, which will be my demo, then I'll approach the staffing agencies.
Okay.
And then I'll approach staffing agencies first, just because they'll probably have stuff available immediately. And then I'll also look at, all right,
Right.
what other companies are
Yeah,
there?
it's also like getting your foot in the door is the hardest part. So
Right.
staffing agencies.
I'm basically, this is how I did it for operations.
Yeah.
I'm going to mimic that.
right.
with
Then
the
you make your
software.
connections and all right. Well,
Yeah,
That's
so
good.
that's the plan.
I'm glad you're thinking about it.
Yeah,
It's good.
I'm
That's
healthy. I'm not a
insightful.
crazy person.
Yeah, not yet.
Sometimes the only response I have
This
is,
good.
how's software going? Or programming? Like, it's good. It's good.
It's hard to articulate too.
Yeah.
For like
Sometimes I
you
can't
know.
even explain it because like
Yeah.
it's so
Dude, trust me.
detailed. Yeah, I'm
I
sure
can't ever
yours is
explain
even
what I
worse.
do.
Well, not
I
only
wish I
for
could.
NDAs, but like
Yeah.
just the technology. So
Just trying to explain-
edge
yeah.
on the edge. It's like
Trying to explain to my girlfriend, and I sit here, eyes glazed over,
Yeah.
and she admits it. Like, I don't know what you just said.
computers.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard. But all right, good. I think we hit our time limit.
1 hour, 4 minutes.
I can go another hour, baby. Let's do this.
I'm actually getting kind of hungry.
Okay, Popeyes it is.
Any
This is fun. Thanks for having me.
Anything else to say from that edge of the? I can see the sun is rising for you as it's setting for us.
Yes.
Yes.
That's deep.
I got a really lovely review from two folk, one an author, one an educationist, and my advanced reader's copy of my book will be out soon, hopefully.
Ooh.
So it's going well.
I hope to get a copy of that.
Some training for some teachers in a school here. So.
Oh wow.
That's another thing I'm looking forward. Yeah.
Congratulations.
So life is good.
Yeah.
Creativity is going. I am going to start. So this was an interesting thing. I'll kind of share this with you. We went out in the evening after the opening of the fast and kind of looked around. People are getting ready for Eid, and there was this guy with a monkey training his monkey as yeah. And you're talking about AI and all of these kind of really high level.
And you come across a man and a monkey.
Yeah, the man with the monkey.
There's the
man
bubble.
with the monkey, the mother of the monkey had muscular problems, and so she couldn't be there. The mother monkey, and apparently he also had a goat as part of his show.
Goat is a recurring animal in our conversation,
right?
And that is another life that. And that is indicative
goats,
of the life of
MuleSoft,
mules.
mules.
Wow.
And at one point he had a bear, but those are illegal now. You can't.
now.
Bears too.
They have bears in Pakistan?
Yes.
Yeah, they went by a bear sanctuary.
Oh wow.
Near I forget what region, but
one of them.
Yeah, there's a bear sanctuary because now using bears as entertainers is illegal.
That's good.
Frowned upon.
So that, yeah, fine.
Maybe the same will happen for the
as my spirit animal.
You approve.
I approve of the safety of bears. But although I am a cat to a degree, so
yes, you are. Wow, sounds like it's going well though. Congratulations, Auntie.
Yep, that's good.
I'm excited to read your book, but it'll take me a while, so I might need that advanced copy so I can.
I might be able to find something around here. For rough draft.
I will ask you to put together some discussion questions.
Oh, okay. I'll collaborate with Nabil on this.
Some
So then you'll have
critiques.
to read it.
Daniel.
Alas, a question for another podcast.
Can save it for
Oh,
next week.
Daniel said, why are some animals valued more than others? Yes, we'll
Some
definitely,
tastier.
we can go into that in a
So
different.
we'll focus on animals next time.
All right. I'll listen in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I'll wrap it up then.
That was fun.
Thanks for tuning in,
Thanks.
and until next time, toodaloo.
Bye.